Starting, great. Hello everyone, my name is Debbie Butler and I'm the founder of Brain Health Now. And we're going to talk about the Brain Health Retreat Rooms, which is kind of an exciting venture we've had for the past 2 years for the school districts. But first I want to talk about how we got started. So Brain Health Now is a grassroots organization strictly to end stigma by reframing the way we talk about brain health by using the words brain health instead of mental health. So we started in Dubuque, Iowa. I woke up in the middle of the night and I said, we need to do something by changing language and helping to end stigma. So we put billboards up throughout the city of Dubuque. There was maybe 6 or 8 billboards for 6 months. We got an unbelievable response. Some of the billboards were saying, it's brain health, not mental illness. It's not crazy psycho, it's brain health. So since then, fast forward 7 years, we have partnered with Unity Point, Mercy One, the school districts, colleges, universities, businesses, and we've done an extraordinary job of changing language within our community, and we're now taking it through the state of Iowa. We believe the reason why the language has to be changed is that the stigma follows the words mentally ill and mental illness, crazy, psycho, which are very derogatory words towards the way it is. So it all started back in 1985 with my brother, Steve, who was diagnosed with schizophrenia. And needless to say, it was a tough road for my family, my brother, my mom, and my dad. My brother was honorably discharged from the military in 1985. He came to Arizona. He was dropped off at the airport with no explanation. Back in 1985, the stigma was so intense that my parents or anyone wouldn't talk about it. So I had an undergrad at the time, and now since I've had my master's in psychology, and I can tell you that the one thing, the commonality that I've noticed between my brother and everybody else that we've talked to, which are thousands of people, is that the stigma was as detrimental to the person's lifestyle than the disease. I'll repeat that. The stigma was just as detrimental to the person's lifestyle than the disease. So, hence, we decided to do this, the language change. I can tell you that the latest venture that we've had with the school districts was the Brain Health Retreat Rooms, which has just been an extraordinary ride. Shirley and Kristen, to my left, my right, my left. Shirley is with the school district, and Kristen was one of the Brain Health liaisons. So I'll turn it over to Shirley, and she'll talk about the goodness that we're doing in the schools, and then Kristen will talk about some of the real life situations that go on in these rooms.
Thank you, Debbie. I am Shirley Horseman, and I'm the Executive Director of Student Services for Dubuque Community Schools. And we have the privilege of having the first 2 brain health rooms that Debbie and her husband, Andy, founded. And they have made a difference. But first I want to talk a little bit about why do we need brain health retreat rooms in our schools. And I think our speakers up to this point in the day have really laid a really good case of some of the issues that school districts are facing across the nation. The impact of social media on brain health, the impact of the pandemic on brain health, all of that has taken a toll. So a few statistics that I just wanted to kind of share with you to set the stage. We know that about half of all citizens in the United States, adults at some point in their life, will experience some type of brain health challenge. And we know that about half of those conditions develop while youth are in our schools, typically while they're in high school. And we also know from the statistics, and again, I think it's a lot of the stigma, there's approximately 11 years between when someone gets a diagnosis and when they actually seek treatment. And we need to lessen that time. We also know that there is a lack of providers for people who need brain health therapy or just need someone that they can talk through things with. An article in the Telegraph-Herald, which is our Dubuque daily paper, earlier this week had an article and it said in Dubuque County, we have 1 mental health therapist for every 530 people. So we are in a critical shortage in the eastern half of Iowa, which makes these brain health retreat rooms even more compelling for our students. We also know that about 60% of our youth have major depression and they do not seek treatment, either because they can't find treatment or again, it's because of that stigma. They think they can just get through it. They can put their head down, they can suffer in silence, and hopefully get through it. We know that that is not the case. As with many of the speakers this morning, we have had youth that have died by suicide, thankfully not in our schools, but certainly within our community. We also know, as we're looking at our statistics, and I'm trying to find my number so I don't have to look back, that about 1.5 million youth across the U.S. Self-medicate. They use drugs, they use alcohol, and many times that is associated with a brain health disorder too. And we know that a lot of youth are in those major depressive symptoms, which if they don't seek help or have that caring adult around them to help them, it often gets to the point where they cannot function. So the impact of all of this that we see are students with really high anxiety so high they can't come to school, or if they come to school, they can't stay in their classes. So our brain health retreat rooms have really been instrumental in dealing with a lot of these situations. And a little bit about who we are. You can see the statistics up there. We have 2 comprehensive high schools, and we have an alternative learning center. And our brain health retreat rooms opened in January of 2021 at Dubuque Senior and Hempstead High School. And our latest one in our alternative learning center hasn't been open quite a year. We opened that April 12th of last school year, and we have had over 15,000 student visits to our brain health retreat rooms in that time, and we're adding to that daily. So at this time, I'll turn it over to one of our brain health liaisons, Kristen. She'll introduce herself and talk about the work of the liaisons in those rooms.
Hi, so like Shirley said, I'm Kristen Nolan. I am the Brain Health Liaison at Dubuque Senior High School. So we're a high school of about 1,300 students. And I'm sure you're curious about exactly what goes on in the Brain Health Retreat Room, as this is a totally new concept. So myself and Carrie, she's one of the Brain Health Liaisons, were the first ones to kind of, I don't want to say be thrown into this, but we kind of were the ones that lay the foundation of like kind of what this looks like. So a typical day for us is students come in and check in with us to let them know where they're at. So if maybe they just need a break, or maybe they need somebody to talk to, maybe they need to work on some de-escalation skills, maybe they're having a problem with a teacher and we kind of had to go through those problem-solving skills. So we're kind of getting many different things thrown at us. So it's a matter of working with the student, connecting with the student, and then getting them into a nice, healthy mindset so they can get back into the classroom. Typically, students are in there for about 15 to 20 minutes, and that's, again, ultimately to get them in a nice, healthy headspace, get them using their coping skills, get them using any kind of de-escalation tactics in order to get back into the classroom. This room is intended for everyone. I think that was one of Debbie's biggest visions, is that it's not just somebody who is in a crisis who has to be in there because they're in that crisis mode, but this can also be for somebody who just needs a break. Like, I am overwhelmed, I just took a math test and I like cannot breathe, so I just need to go down there, take a couple minutes, and then I'm able to get back into that mind space to get to my next class. This room, I oftentimes hear parents saying, oh, well, my student doesn't have a diagnosis, so they don't need to go into that room. And I think that's where our biggest thing is, that this room is for everybody. It's not just for somebody who has a diagnosis. This could be a room where a basketball player has a big game coming up tonight, so we need that room to just kind of take some deep breaths and get in that mindset. One of my favorites is we have 3 periods in our schools. So I have a student athlete who has his first period free, so he doesn't even have to come to school. He can stay at home, sleep in, do all those things, but he purposely comes to school early so that he can sit in the brain health retreat room and get his mindset for the day to come. So this isn't just for, again, those that are diagnosed or those that are in the moment going through a crisis. This room is for everybody. We have staff members that come in and kind of work through different things that they're struggling with too, because let's be real, us teachers go through some difficult situations throughout the school days, right? So this is a nice space for them to also come down and take some deep breaths and kind of work through those crisis situations also. So I think, again, that big emphasis is that, like, this is for everybody, that everybody struggles, everybody has anxious thoughts, everybody sometimes is kind of in those funks, and so this is a space that we can all use.
And I think so too, just to add on to a little bit of the rooms, they were purposely built. So there's really, we had posters and we forgot to put them up. So, so we'll put them up out there afterwards so everybody can see. But they're really, they take you out of the classroom setting during the day. So if a child has anxiety or depression or whatever is going on, you walk into this room and it's really neat, you guys. It's got, you know, graphics over here that say calm, you're enough. I mean, the colors are beautiful. We have different sections for like nutrition. So there's there's a table, because some of these children don't have food when they come to school. So there's like a food area, and we partner with a company called Mindful Minutes, and they provide healthy snacks for the students. And this is just like a donation towards the Brain Health Retreat Rooms. So then you walk around, you have these really neat booths that you sit in. If someone's crying or really in urgent care, needs some care, and they don't want anybody to see them, they'll come to these telephone booths and they'll sit down, chairs, and they'll sit down and they feel like enclosed. They can calm down a little bit. And then we have like a little gathering space, and then, so there's all kinds of little areas that they can go into, and it's 15, 20 minutes, that's it. So some people are like probably thinking, oh my gosh, the kids are gonna get out of class for like a whole period, but that's not how it works. I mean, I think during the when we first opened up in one of the schools, there was 65 kids standing in line a day. And so they had to tailor that back and figure all those little processes out. So, but it really has worked. And it's also a bridge for the counselors. So the kids, instead of going to a counseling session, let's say the child signs up for an hour-long counseling session, they can come to the Brain Health Retreat Room. Maybe they don't need an hour with the counselor. By the way, it's helpful for the counselor as well, because this is like the kind of de-escalation period for these children, and then they can go if they need further help. So it's kind of a really nice setup for everybody.
And
Claire's bringing the pictures.
And I was just going to add that our brain health liaisons are all either certified counselors or certified mental health therapists, because we feel really strongly that that person in the room is important. Students come to these rooms because they can't get through their day. Their anxiety is creeping up. There is something that's happening that makes them want to seek that quick strategy, somebody to talk to. And while we have school counselors, they often have long lines and they often have other things that they have to attend to. So we've been really deliberate in keeping these brain health rooms, one person, our brain health room liaison, in that room all the time, and we try to limit the number of students that are there. They are a normal classroom, and then thanks to Brain Health Now and Debbie and Andy, they are outfitted beautifully, as you were just describing, and students really need to spread out. So we quickly learned we could have too many students in the room, and they respect that as well. We did an awful lot in those first couple of months when we opened to educate our community, our parents, our students. We had teachers bring their classrooms in so that our liaisons could talk to them about what are they, what is appropriate use, what is inappropriate use. So we've done a lot of work to make them successful. They are paying dividends as we hear about all of the challenges of our youth, the pressures of social media, the isolation, the loneliness of the pandemic. Those are all issues that we're seeing and dealing with in our rooms. Does anyone have questions? Yes. Do you want to talk about the teacher piece, Kristen?
Yes, so when we first were rolling out the room, we presented a PowerPoint in a teacher in service about who we are, what this room was, kind of what it's not, what the function of the room is supposed to be, and that obviously it was a learning process for us in that sense of like what's working, what's not working, but I think the biggest key component was communication between us and the teachers of that this is what it looks like, and if we do see a pattern of like, okay, this student has kind of been in here a lot or different things like that, then we communicate that, then we get the counselor involved to kind of work through like, is it kind of like a more of an abusing the situation type of thing to kind of work through that. But it was a lot of like getting that information out to teachers, like having that PowerPoint, that in service so that they knew kind of the groundwork of what this was and what it was not.
And did you ask about the cost? So, so our foundation, we fund 6 rooms a year, and so we take first come, first serve, and we literally thought we're going to do 1 room, and that was it. So we're up to 11 rooms. We're in communication now with 4 more districts throughout the state of Iowa, and we're just going to keep on going until we can't. And the cost is provided by the foundation to build the room out with the furniture. And then the school, we want the schools to partner with us, so we have them pay for the salaries of the brain health liaison, and that's just done in a variety of different ways. So, yeah.
And when we talk about the cost of the salary, typically in the school budget, I know our last speaker from the CDC, Dr. Ether, talked about the ratio of counselors, school nurses, all of those challenges that school districts face. We do too. Funding is always tight. Our community believes that these brain health retreat rooms are incredibly important, and I fund them a lot through grant writing. I work for the whole district, and so I have went out to the community because our community really knows and embraces the whole concept of the brain health retreat rooms, and our community comes together. I've had no problem finding long-term funding. People have stepped forward in our community and said, we will fund these for the next 3 years. By funding these, I mean the salaries of our brain health retreat room liaisons. And so as that turns over, I have no doubt that we will continue to find that in our community. So if your community embraces it, it's easy to find. Any other questions? Chris, okay.
Yeah.
Right now, we're in high schools. Absolutely. We have, and we're sticking with high schools. I mean, we've got a lot of high schools to go through the state of Iowa. So right now, the curriculum, not the curriculum, but the tools that are being used within these rooms are for high schools, and then also the rooms are kind of more geared towards the teenage ages. So yes, 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 but wait, we got to wait on our end anyway, because we got a lot to do with high schools. But you're absolutely right, 100%. So yes. Right. Right. Good thoughts, wonderful thoughts.
And yes, that has come up in our district. Our middle school principals frequently find their way to my office saying, when do we get a brain health room? And you know, there is only so much that we can support each year, especially in terms of salaries. But if that were not an issue, we would certainly move them to our middle schools. At the elementary level, we have sensory rooms in each of our elementary buildings They are not typically staffed, but they have all of those spaces. They tend to be small rooms, and usually a teacher takes students, or a paraprofessional will take students into the rooms. So we have a really kind of parsed down version at the elementaries, and each does their own. But good thought, and yes, the need is really there.
Kristen, could you talk about a typical day in a brain health room? Yeah, so Shirley had just mentioned, like, I know I kind of briefed a little bit of like what a typical day looks like, but on average, we're probably seeing between 25 to 35 students a day. So again, going back to, we're looking at breakups, we're looking at test anxiety, we're looking at that sports level anxiety, but also, I don't know, I'm pretty sure everybody feels the Iowa weather right now, but we have that seasonal depression that also comes where our students are really struggling after coming back from Christmas break or the holidays. So we're dealing with a lot of those types of struggles too. So I think one of the biggest things is that listening to almost every single person talk today, they talked about the connection in the community. And we do mindfulness Fridays in our room, so we have a support time built in where students can sign up and they can do mindfulness. And I had a student the other day talk about how I would never approach or talk to many of these students that are in this group if it wasn't for this room. So we're bringing together different cultural and socioeconomic backgrounds and bringing them together, and they're talking about things that they have struggled with that they typically wouldn't even be talking to this student about. So it's just interesting that we're bringing, the Brain Health Room has its own little community of like that connectedness, and that students come to school because they know they're gonna have that safe person. They know they're gonna have that person they can come talk to. They know they have that safe space where if they are having a difficult day, even if they just got out of bed is the best thing they could do that day, they know that they can come down and have that space where they can, again, decompress, get back in that mindset, and get to the classroom.
Anybody else have any questions?
Another piece that we've added to the brain health rooms is we have therapy dogs that are in our schools. And the therapy dogs are becoming regularly scheduled visitors to the brain health retreat rooms. And when I'm out in the schools, I drop by whenever I can because I find them such a relaxing place. And on days when I drop by and the therapy dogs are there, it is incredible. There is something magic about children and dogs, and there's something really relaxing when the therapy dogs go there. And so there are just so many facets to these rooms that we didn't anticipate when we started down that pathway that are now paying dividends in so many ways. So we are excited going forward. We continue to collect data in terms of students who are using them, repeat students. And what we find is a lot of times it takes our freshmen a while to get going. They have to learn what it's about. And by the time they're sophomores and juniors and seniors, we have a lot of students that have really come to rely upon this, and they find it to be their safe place, a place they can decompress, get some quick strategies, get a healthy snack if they haven't had any food, and the important thing, get back to class, because in the end, it's all about enabling them to have the best brain health possible to get them to the finish line, which is graduation, and set them up for success. Thank you.